Welcome back to Mama G's Pantry. Well, it's May in Edmonton and it's trying to be spring, so I spent the last week out in Mama G's garden, which we can discuss later. Actually, producer director, can you do a quick shot on the plants I made for my daughter's shower? I grew all these from seeds, and we're having a baby shower for my first grandchild in a couple of days. And seeing as how we're not doing much shopping, I made those little guys for the girls to take home with them. Thanks, producer director. Okay, back to what we're cooking today. So I would like to do a couple of classic Canadian desserts, and the first one of these is East Coast Blueberry Grunt. Now really, this is a very traditional Acadian dessert, very simple to make, very common in the Atlantic provinces. They have a wonderful culinary history, not only all the seafood, but a great French and British influence, which is probably where the blueberry grunt came from. They also love their cobblers and crisps. The Maritimes are full of wild blueberries, which really lend themselves to this, and it also lends itself to cooking it over a fire, say if you're out camping or whatever. So today we're going to make this. Let's talk first about the difference between a cobbler, a crisp, and a grunt. A cobbler is basically fruit in the bottom of a pan, but then it's usually topped with a biscuit-like dough or a batter and then baked in the oven. A crisp starts with fruit in the pan and then is usually topped with a topping of oats, brown sugar, flour, and butter, and baked. So when it bakes, the butter melts, the sugar caramelizes, and it gets really nice and crisp on top. A grunt is made pretty much totally on the stove, and it involves fruit on the bottom and then steaming dumplings on top of them. Nice sweet dumplings. It's just delicious. Now this idea kind of came to me from my friend Lorna, who was born in New Brunswick, and we used to go fishing up in the Arctic all the time. And, you know, we'd have fish and potatoes and bread at lunch, not much for dessert. And she finally said, "Oh, look at all the wild blueberries up here." And they were beautiful, big purple wild blueberries in the Arctic. She said, "You go get them and I will make you blueberry pie." And from the chef, she would get some flour and baking soda or baking powder and butter, pat it into the bottom of a pan, put it on the campfire. In the other pan, she'd make an ooey, sticky mess of wild blueberries. And when the crust was done, she'd pour the blueberries on top. And we all got this hot slice of blueberry pie sitting in the middle of the Arctic. Fantastic. Well, when I came home, I decided that I would try the grunt out. And so that's what I'm going to show you today. The recipe I'm making is actually a half a recipe, because there's just Doug and I here tonight. But in the remarks below where I list the ingredients, I'll give you the full ingredients, which would normally feed about 6. Like me, you could just put it in half. So we're going to start with the fruit. Fruit's always on the bottom, so I've got about 2 cups of blueberries here. And this is a wonderful dish for a skillet. I did my triple ginger skillet cake. Baking in skillets is awesome. So I've got my blueberries. I want to put juice of a lemon in there. That just helps bring out the taste, so it gives it a bit of a tartness. We're going to add 1/4 teaspoon of cinnamon. Who knew cinnamon and blueberries go really nice together? And 1/2 cup of sugar. And because these are fresh blueberries today, I'm going to add just a little bit of water because I don't want those berries to stick, maybe a tablespoon. Now, we're going to mix that up over here on the stove, put it on medium simmer for 10 minutes until we get a bubbly blueberry sauce. There we go. I'll just get this going and melted and simmering away. And then when we come back, I'll show you how to make the dumplings. Look at that. It's a thing of beauty. Those blueberries are just exuding all their juices. You can smell that cinnamon and lemon just giving a little tartness, a little spice. Now we're just going to let that go until it gets a little bit thicker. In the meantime, let's make those dumplings. So what I have here is 1 cup of flour. And the other day my daughter phoned me and said, "I don't have a sifter. What do I do?" You can whisk it, or if you have a big sieve like this, that also works really well. So I'm going to put my dry ingredients, 1 cup of flour, 1/2 teaspoon of baking powder, a pinch of salt. Always. Salt just brings up the taste and everything. And a pinch of salt. There we go. We're just gonna shake that up into the bowl. Obviously, sifting just makes it better. This recipe also says it's good to make sure the baking powder gets all broken up. So we're just gonna let that flour go in there. Okay. And then once that's all nice and floofy, we're gonna add half a cup of sugar to make it a little sweet as well. And then here I've got a 1/4 cup of butter. It's kind of still cold. I'm just gonna throw it in there in little pieces. It's kind of like making biscuits, really. And you want it cold just so that it doesn't melt and go right into it. You want it to melt while it's steaming and make them rise, right? Now I'm just gonna use my spoon, or a fork you could use, and just kind of cut that butter in there until it looks like almost little peas. If you have a pastry cutter, you can use that, of course, or even just your hands, which I may, for time's sake, just jump in there and spread it around a bit so that we know our butter is even throughout. In a small bowl, I'm going to take 1/3 cup of milk and an egg. Actually, it asks for half an egg, which is a real trick, by the way. So I'm going to put most of the yolk in. We're going to mix that up. And then it goes right into the dry ingredients. Okay, we're going to take our spoon, just mix it up till we kind of get a shaggy dough. If you need more milk, you might need more milk. I'm just going to get that egg in there. Looks like a shaggy dough to me. Okay. And then give me a second to get my ice cream scoop ready, and we'll throw these dumplings into the berries. All right, our blueberries look lovely. They're thickened up, they're lining the bottom of the pan. So I'm gonna use my little ice cream scoop here and just start putting dumplings on top. You want to kind of cover as much as you can. You don't want them too close together because you want them to steam sort of individually. Okay, now by the way, you can make this, if you don't have a cast iron pan, it makes just fine in a saucepan. Because now I have to put the lid on it and no peeking for like 15 minutes. Okay. There we go. Now that's just going to steam away. I'm going to set that for 15 minutes. And I'm going to turn my upper oven on to 400 degrees. Because while these are steamed dumplings, I found that at the very end, if you just stick it under the hot oven for a few minutes, it kind of crisps up the top of the dumplings and adds an extra texture to it that's just out of this world. Okay, we'll see you in about 15 minutes. Alright, we're back with our blueberry grunt. And you can see now that those dumplings have sort of poofed up nicely. Blueberries are looking gorgeous, so now we're going to take that lid off. And like I say, in the past I used to stop here, but recently I read a recipe that said just stick them in a hot oven for a couple of minutes, 400 degrees. So I'm going to do that just to brown the tops a little. Oh, I also forgot to tell you the other distinguishing characteristic of grunt. Apparently it's called that because while these dumplings are cooking, if you listen carefully, you'll hear them grunting. Yeah. Alright, in we go. Just to brown those tops up a bit, give them a little crispness, and when we come back, I'll show you the finished product. Alright, here we go. So now we take a dumpling or two. Lots of that nice blueberry. Oh, look at that. Now really, this is best served right now. Tomorrow I could maybe nuke that and have it with my yogurt for breakfast. But right now, that's what you want. And it should be topped off. Just a little bit of whipped cream or vanilla ice cream. East Coast Blueberry Grunt. Wonderful traditional Canadian dessert.